welcome to the Town Council meeting. And for the first time, we're having a council meeting online via Zoom. So let's commence public question time. There were 7 questions which were submitted, of which only 2 relate to the Town Council's functions. The other 5 will be passed on to Northumberland County Council for them to provide a written response. And can I leave that in the capable hands of Bob Stroke Adam? Okay.
Of course.
Right, the first question is from Kyle Morrison, who is in North Ward. And he says, this is for Darryl, I have noticed around Cramlington that the grass is still being cut, paths are being cleaned, and I've seen staff doing flower planting. Can you please confirm this is not going to stop? And can you also tell me if this is a town council or county council service for the town? Darryl.
Yeah, no problem. In relation to service delivery, it has not diminished during the coronavirus crisis, and there are no intentions to suspend works that fall under the control of Cramlington Town Council. With regards to environmental maintenance such as grass cutting, street cleaning, and etc. and the likes, that is a dual service that is managed by ourselves and Northumberland County Council.
Thank you, Darryl. So next question is from Elliot Riley, who I think is in Parkside. Christine, you'll confirm. The question, again, it's for Darryl. There are still a lot of people working from home and doing their daily walk around the town. What is the council doing to ensure that Cramlington stays clean and green, and will flowers still be planted this year? I'm sorry, that does slightly encroach on the previous question. You okay with that, Darryl?
Yeah, absolutely. It's exactly the same as the first answer I just provided before. You know, Cramlington Town Council have contingency plans in place to ensure that staff, council partners, contractors and suppliers are fully operational in order to deliver frontline services to a high standard. So the short answer is everything's still going ahead, planting's still going ahead, and there's no issues whatsoever with frontline services.
Marvellous, thank you. Okay, well, no further questions, so we will commence the meeting. Any apologies? Do we put in John's apologies or?
Sorry, I believe there was other questions, Chair.
Yes, I've just explained, Adam. There were 7 questions, but only 2 were applicable to Town Council. The other 5.
Yeah, we agreed, Adam, that we would.
You or Bob to pass on to county. Are you okay with that, Adam?
Yeah, just confirming, Chair.
Okay. Right, any apologies?
We have apologies from Anne Richardson, Chair.
Anne, right, okay. Right, okay then, so agenda item 2, Town Mayor's announcements. Well, we, along with the rest of the world, are in an unprecedented situation. Things are not normal and we have all needed to adjust very quickly and cope with the coronavirus. As Town Mayor, and I'm sure I speak on behalf of all the Cramlington councillors and staff of the council, I want to say a huge thank you to every person who has contributed to getting our town and country through this crisis so far. From NHS staff to our local hospital, cleaners, retail workers, drivers, teachers, emergency services, parents, and of course our council staff. You've all played your part in protecting us. And to the people of Cramlington, a massive thank you for everything you've done to help your family, friends, and neighbours. I think this would be a fitting time at our first council meeting since the crisis began to take a moment of silence and reflection for all those who have sadly died. So may I ask members to please join me in a moment of quiet reflection to honour those. So can we just bow our heads for a moment? Thank you. Prior to the meeting, may I offer my sincere congratulations to Maggie Martin, who has gone far and beyond the course of her duties and received the Community Champion Award, which was an initiative run by our local MP, Ian Levy. And you'll be hearing from Maggie in agenda item 6, I think. Okay, as the meeting is being run digitally, please would members raise their hand, and I know Adam covered this before, but if you've something to say, and I will invite you to speak. So let's move on to agenda item 3, minutes of the last meeting. Can I have somebody propose the minutes and second them, please? Pat, thank you, Pat. Pat's proposed them. Do we need to second them? Thanks, Mark. Oh, sorry, Norman. I think Mark got there just before you. Agenda item 4, are there any disclosures of interest? Harry, please. Hang on, Pat, you're still on mute.
In the pink papers of community chest items, I'm a Northumberland County Council outside body appointment for East Hertford Community Centre. I'm also had some reasonably close contacts with Cramlington Town Football Club. So for those 2 items, I would like to declare a meeting and not take part in that decision.
Thank you, Barry. Yes, Mark.
Chair, just to advise, I've sought guidance on this with Adam. With regards to the additional item that came through on Cramlington Rockets, I do have children who attend Cramlington Rockets, but I understand that that would make no difference with regards to discussion item in part 2.
Right.
It's a personal rather than prejudicial interest.
Exactly. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, agenda item number 5, our lockdown story, an audio-visual presentation outlining how the town council has responded to the restrictions imposed by the coronavirus lockdown. And I understand there is now to be a video.
Adam?
I'm struggling here. Oh, here we go. Adam.
Hi, I'm Michaela from Cramlington Town Council's partnership team. As you can see, we're in the sensory garden busy planting up. We're also carrying out grass cutting and emptying litter bins. It's business as usual here for the time being.
Hello, I'm David Gray. I'm Team Vicar here in Cramlington, and it's good to have the opportunity just to leave a little message about our love and prayers for the community that we serve, which is all of Cramlington. We're always willing to listen and to offer help and prayer where we can, and together we can get through this.
You are helping so many people. For this reason, for what you have done today, you should feel proud.
I'm Maggie Martin. I'm the Community Engagement Officer from Cramlington Town Council. I have been acting as the community link for Communities Together. Been doing a lot of work with the groups in Cramlington, and I've been absolutely overwhelmed how much people are kind of coming together. So whether they be community groups, businesses, statutory organisations, schools, we've all been working really hard together to make sure that people who might need that extra support because of the things they're struggling with are getting that stuff support.
To everyone who's abiding by the restrictions in relation to our playgrounds being closed. We know it's hard, we know it's difficult, and we know it can be hard being stuck in the house, especially with those with young children. But like I say, we're still here, we're still operational.
Whatever we do, we must stay safe, not only for ourselves, but also for the NHS and all the other wonderful frontline workers. We as a council had events organised for a fabulous day of fun, but unfortunately COVID-19 has put paid to that. But maybe we will be able to organise events later in the year, which will tie in with BJ Day in August. We will have to wait and see. Until we meet again, stay home, stay positive, and stay safe.
Hi everyone, I'm Mark Swinburne and I'm one of your Cramlington Village Councillors. I want to thank everyone for pulling together for the 75th anniversary of VA Day. And also a huge thanks to local village resident and business owner, Mr Thornton Bell, who's donated thousands of these flags.
We'll meet again, don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day.
This is Mayor Lorraine, just to say a big thank you for yesterday and all the wonderful celebrations.
Just want to thank the people of East Cramlington for doing exactly what the government said. You've stayed home, you've stayed safe, you've protected our NHS.
And I would just like to say what a massive effort Cramlington made for VE Day, celebrating our heroes 75 years ago, what they did to give us peace today.
Just want to say a big thank you to all the residents of Cramlington. You've been fantastic. Cramlington looks amazing.
Christine and I would just like to say a big thank you to all the residents of Cramlington and Eastfield Ward for the splendid effort they've put in to celebrate the anniversary of VE Day.
And I would just like to thank everyone in Cramlington for the splendid way they have decorated and come together to celebrate VE Day in these trying times.
The displays across the area have been amazing. Some use this as a time to celebrate, some use it as a time to reflect. We should all use this as a time to remember.
It was fantastic to celebrate VE Day here in Cramlington, appropriately socially distanced. We're having a fantastic time.
Thank you, Cramlington, for the great community spirit and all the coming together in celebrating the VE Day.
To the people of Cramlington, thank you so much for what you've done. You have done yourselves really proud.
People working in care homes, the teachers, delivery drivers, shop workers, social workers, council staff. And whilst I'm on about council staff, they have been so diligent in their duty, and parents, of course. So thank you to you all very, very much. This flag is behind me, it's for you.
We are still here, we are still operational with the staff that we have available. We're still grass cutting, we're still emptying bins, we're still removing graffiti, and we're still maintaining all of our green open spaces. We appreciate that times are challenging, for example, our playgrounds being shut, but we just want to say thank you for working with us, because we are here to work with you.
Okay, well, I think the presentation said it all. Where's Wayne? Adam, I was just wondering if Wayne was okay because he didn't have the presentation. Did you manage to get the presentation on your screen, Wayne?
Yeah, everything's fine. Thank you.
Okay, lovely. Right, any questions? Please raise your hand so I can see you. Any questions about the presentation we just saw? Okay, let's move on to agenda item 6. And Maggie, it's over to you to outline the work undertaken by the Cramlington Together Partnership during the lockdown period. I know your report is attached, but I understand you're just going to talk us through it briefly.
Yes, very briefly. So it was 9 weeks ago, after 2 days in post as Community Engagement Officer, that I was approached by Emma Richardson from Northumberland's County Council and asked if I would act as the community link to kind of look at a process to be able to support Cramlington residents through the COVID pandemic. I'd already been in contact at the time with 2 people that had tested positive, so I was self-isolating. Said I was still more than happy to do it, but straight away that made me realise that that's something I couldn't do by myself, because you need a team behind you just in case. If you're sick, somebody else needs to be doing that as well. So one of the first things I did was look at getting a team together. So I had already worked quite closely with Cramlington Youth Project. They had some volunteers that were quite willing to come on board and act as coordinators for that as well. So that was Claire Gascoigne and it was Katie Appleyard. So we were the initial ones, and what we did was kind of look at things like risk assessments, what we would potentially need, what kind of things people would need support with. and we were getting, we had a link from Northumberland County Council, which was Julie Leddy, so anything that come in, she would kind of give to us, and we would look at how we could support people. We started looking at online groups, what was available online, doing that kind of asset mapping, seeing what was available online. We were looking at what deliveries there were available, what the local businesses were doing, and we're just trying to get a picture as quickly as possible, so we could kind of work out the best way to support people. Initially when we were looking at online, there was a number of groups that was being set up online, so it was kind of making that contact, letting them know we were here, finding out who they were, and just kind of finding any way we can kind of communicate with what was going on out there. Still in the time when we didn't really have a clue what was happening. Northumberland County Council put the call out for volunteers, and I think because we had the town council page which shared it, because we had the community engagement page, because we had a lot of contact with these online groups, we were really lucky. We had 115 people come forward to act as volunteers within Cramlington, which was massive compared to a lot of the other areas. What happened as a community link, I was linked into the links in other areas. There's 40 across Northumberland of these community links, all from different backgrounds, all from different organisations. I was linked up with Blythe, Bedlington, Asherton and New Biggin. So we as a team were kind of being able to share good practice, say what was working in one area and what was working in other areas. So that was the initial kind of support we were getting, just as, you know, community links kind of supporting each other. The requests as they started to come through initially were for to get people shopping. Things like that, having to work out how we would do things around the money, how people would pay for it. You know, it was, we were all trying to organise this between us. Then there was opportunities to maybe get vouchers, so we could pay for people shopping through vouchers that they could receive from NCC. So every kind of barrier we overcome, it was just kind of talking how we could do this together to overcome it. Then we started getting requests in for prescriptions, which was fantastic because we had the volunteers there, so we could have that big list of volunteers and just say, we've got a prescription. We had people's postcodes, so we were kind of matching them to the people in that area. What started to happen is we were getting requests from other areas, so it wasn't just coming through the communities together. We found that there was housing organisations getting in touch saying they had vulnerable residents and if there's anything we could do to support. Then with shopping, we had school that was getting in touch because they'd put information out there, so they wanted to know how they could support sort of people within their areas as well. And we were really keen to try and support people so they could continue doing that long term. So we thought if they lived in the area, they could kind of look after each other within that area. So that started to go really well. So the volunteers that were matched up, I know a lot of them are still doing that. They're still doing the shopping, they're still picking up prescriptions, which means that they didn't come in as a repeat referral. The other thing that we were doing was trying to find out where we could get emergency food supplies. So again, a lot of the supermarkets, they were getting in touch with us 8 o'clock at night, and we were getting bread, we were getting whatever was left over for that day, and then looking at the best ways that we could get that info, you know, get that those resources out to people. What's happened from that is we started really small, and that's built. We've had lots of support from Marks and Spencer's, who will, you know, get in touch at the end of an evening. We've linked it up to a lot of the community groups in Cramlington. So if we get a tray of bread, it could go to East Hertford's, say the community association there, and they get it out to people within that estate. It could go down to Eastfield, and they've done the same as well. So we're trying to link into all the groups that were already out there. So the Royal British Legion have been fantastic. The churches have been fantastic. We've linked in with the food bank, because what we didn't want to do is take away from the work that they were doing. So if there was any kind of request that came in that should have been for the food bank, we would direct it to them. If it was anything that came in that was COVID related and it was struggles through COVID, that would come to us, and we try to do that between each other. There has been some kind of issues and hiccups with that as well, because the request initially would come to us, that should have gone to the food bank from Communities Together. But then what they started to do from that is they started to triage that from Northumberland County Council. So if there was anything that I thought was beyond a volunteer's capability or something that needs somebody with a bit more training, I would quite happy kind of push that back to them and say that's for one call, that's not for one of our volunteers. So there's been really good communication. I think that we've learned a lot over the last 9 weeks. I think we had a really good process going with the volunteers, and then it went really quiet for a while. And then we'd found out that the volunteers that we were using, the requests were then going into the Good Sam's volunteers. So we weren't getting as many. What happened with them is with the changes again, a lot of those went back to work. So the requests started coming back to us as well. So we have gone now, we've still got good numbers. We started with 115, that's gone down to 42 volunteers that we've still got now, which is a good number because we have got the resources there. I think the difference from now to the start is when we first had requesting for a food parcel, we're looking what we had from the supermarkets, and I think we had something like a loaf of bread, we had a tub of hot chocolate, and we had, like, you know, a few bits of fruit. Whereas now we've been kind of inundated, we've had support from so many different organisations that we've got the resources there. There's other organisations, so it's not just Cramlington Youth Project who were kind of used as the hub, and the reason we use that as a hub is because all the sort of activities had stopped. There was nothing going on there, and they've got that big hall as a space. So for instance, when we got the flags, it was a central point that they could just come and drop everything off, and then they could kind of be distributed from there. It was the same when we were getting food deliveries. So when Morrison's came, they came in a big Ferguson's truck. It was really easy for them, you know, because the car park was clear to be able to get those things in. So it's been the perfect hub for it. Again, being able to kind of use the hall within then, have it completely deep cleaned. We can use, you know, partition off the rest of the building. So it went from a really full-time role to then it quietened down, then it picked up again. What we're starting to look at now is kind of reducing that as well, looking at ways we can sustain within the community, how they can continue that support. So that's why when the requests come in, they don't just come in to me now. There's 4 of us now on the team. It's still Katie, it is still Claire. Rob Hall is kind of overseeing operations, so we've got that lots of people we can go to just to say, how do you think this should work, how do you think that should work, and we have got Lindsay Jordan now, who is pulling all the data together. We weren't asked from the start to collect data, but I just thought it's one of the really things that's really important, and at some point we'll be asked for it. So that is something we've pulled together for Communities Together, so it will be something I can share with all of you tomorrow. So we've got numbers of where the requests have come in, where we've had the deliveries from, what kind of things we've been asked to do. So I will be sending that out probably first thing tomorrow as well, so you can see all that. It wasn't quite ready for today. It definitely wasn't ready for last Friday, but it is available and ready to go out. So just if you've got any questions, but I know it's kind of a snapshot. The other thing I wanted to say is how fantastic people have been. I think out of all the requests we've had, there's only 2 we've had to put back because of issues to Communities Together to deal with. All the others have been dealt with within 24 hours. Some of them, you know, within an hour or so as well, just because people's quite happy to say, yes, I'm happy to go for a prescription. Yes, I'll go and do somebody's shopping. So it's been fantastic. So any questions Maggie, before us disappear?
It was, Maggie, it was excellent. I mean, I used the service, as you know, and it was very, very quick. It was superb. So thank you. That was amazing. Thank you. Mark, I think you were next with your hand up.
It's not so much a question really, but I think we'd all agree that what Maggie's done has been exceptional and very worthy of the award that she's received. But to back up what she said about the CVYP and those involved, their efforts have just been outstanding in what they've managed to achieve through this. But in addition, the support by all involved has been just amazing. And while Maggie's listed many, there are even those individual residents that have come forward in so many thoughtful ways. And just one example I know was a resident who contacted to say that because they'd not been able to get out and do their regular sort of weekly exercise classes, they wanted to donate the money that they would normally have spent on those exercise classes to families in need, and came forward to donate the cash that they had spare. And they then went on to making craft packs to be handed out to families as well. And it's that about the Cramlington community, that so many people are thinking of others through this difficult time. And that's what makes Cramlington the community that it is.
Very, very kind. Thank you for that, Mark. Barry, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'd like to, it's not so much a question either, but I'd like to pay tribute. I'm an outside body appointment from Northumberland County Council at CVYP, and I've been getting regular updates from them to their board, and what they've done has been fantastic. I've had some dealings as a volunteer, straight away to me, straight away obvious that it's someone very close to me in terms of geography. So there's an obvious, you know, you've done your homework and worked out who the best people are to help such people. And I also like to say well done to East Hertford Community Centre. Again, I'm an outside body appointment there, but also in Cramlington West Ward. East Hertford's a very different community in terms of, you know, the services and well, you know, lack thereof, given there's no shop or pub or anything in the village. So what they've done has been fantastic, and their bingo, for example, a very good way of socially isolated bingo, a very good way of keeping everyone's spirits up. So I'd like to say well done to them, and well done to everyone else, because you couldn't begin to mention everyone. So just a big well done to everyone. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Hear, hear. Thank you. Thank you for that, Barry. Christine, please.
Yeah, Maggie, I just want to say thank you very much for all the hard work that you've done for Eastfield and the support that you gave the residents. And I just want to say congratulations for your award. It was well deserved.
Thank you.
And the times that I've contacted and said, somebody needs some help, you were on it like a carb on it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Christine. Wayne, please.
Thank you, Chair. So again, echoing everything that everyone said about the exceptional work that Maggie's put in, I think we shouldn't also forget the fact that this has been facilitated through Cramlington Town Council with the support of the County Council and that kind of umbrella. So big thank to the clerk, to Adam, to Darryl, and to all of the team sitting around there, to Jane. It's been a collective team effort, and we could not have done it without the you know, the input from particularly from Bob, the clerk, which I think has been phenomenal. So that was that bit out of the way. So the second thing is, and it's a question, and it's really kind of related to us as a town. How well do you think that Cramlington has managed so far, 9 weeks in, well, I was going to say in comparison to other places, that's probably not fair. I just want to kind of get an idea of how well Cramlington has managed and whether there's anything we could learn from the last 9 weeks.
I think, again, because I have an insight into with the other coordinators in other areas, we've had a lot less struggles in other areas, and I think it's exactly, you know, like Barry was saying, like East Hertford, if they wanted to do things like they've organised street bingo, they've started doing clothes swaps, things like that as well. They've been in touch just to say what's the best way to do it. When we're having the socially isolated VD street parties, I think because we've had that contact with all the groups, it's been a really good way of sort of communicating with groups in Cramlington that I might not have even kind of come across, you know, so quickly, and being able to get in touch with Darryl and just say, so what's the best way they want to put up street bunting, you know, how can we do that safely? I think that's what's helped the communication in Cramlington. I think I was quite lucky because I'd done the asset mapping through my previous role as locality coordinator to have a lot of links. So I think because the Empowering People and Communities project that I was involved in has made it run a lot smoother in the area for that reason. So I think exactly like you say, it's all the different organisations, whether they're statutory, whether they're voluntary, whether they're like local businesses coming together. I think that's really stood out in Cramlington for that reason. So I think, again, given those positive messages, because there have been so many of them, the lady that Mark mentioned, she's still doing that. Those craft packs are going out as care packages. You know, she's continued to do that. That wasn't just for the first couple of weeks. She started giving materials now as well, so we can link people up if they need face masks, if they need. We've had scrub bags made for 5 hospitals across the area. So I just think getting those messages out is what's kept Cramlington spirit high, and I think everybody here has had a part to play with that as well, because of all the messages on social media. Again, we've been really kind of aware that there's people that are not on social media, so a lot of these deliveries that we've had in from supermarkets, we got lots of fresh strawberries from Morrison's, from Ian Levy's team, and we hadn't had very many referrals in from Beacon Lane. So what we did is we went down to Beacon Lane with all the fresh strawberries, and we said, if there's somebody in your estate that you're really worried about, or you think there's somebody that might need support, we give them some strawberries and kind of let them know we were here and the different ways they could get in touch with it. So we haven't waited for things to come to us. We've been really proactive about getting that message out to Cramlington. And a lot of that has been word of mouth, and that's been brilliant. You know, and that's how we started getting requests in. It was really funny. We had 3 on that evening of one person in the area, and the very next day that request came through from Communities Together. So, you know, it just shows that we were getting, you know, the right resources to the right people at the right time.
Okay, thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Spot on.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Maggie.
Thank you.
And thanks again for all your hard work. I know how hard.
And it was definitely a team effort, I have to say that as well. You know, I mean, you know, it was lovely to get the Community Champions Award, but exactly like Wayne said, I could not have done that with everybody else, without everybody else that's been involved in that. So just thank you to everybody else as well.
Thank you, Maggie. Thank you. Okay, we all done? Can we move on to agenda item 7, please? Annual return for the year ending 31st of March 2020. Council is requested to approve the attached end of year accounts and the accounting statements as an accurate statement of the Council's financial position and of income and expenditure for the year ending 31st of March 2020. Again, the report is attached, but John will succinctly talk us through it. Over to you, John.
Thank you. I'd just like to get the accounts done, which is why I submitted them to you all in the middle of April. I was delighted that I did get some questions and was able to answer them. I'll just take you through the main highlights. The first one is to draw your attention to the level of your reserves. We like 150, well, I like £150,000. We're not that far short. I don't see any problem. So just to ask you to confirm you're happy enough with my recommendation. If I may, I'll just quickly go through my report, then invite questions. So I just
please carry on, John.
Yeah. Internal audit. I have one point to refer. Sadly, our internal auditor is having to isolate for 12 weeks. There's also furloughed from a job and then feels unable to actually be our internal auditor this year. So I will be searching, or with Bob's help and Adam's help, and coming forward with a recommendation, hopefully in the not too distant future, for someone to cover our audit for this year. As far as income expenditure goes, whilst we were £23,000 overspent, we actually anticipated this because we had things carrying over from the previous year which needed completing, and decisions you made in the year. So again, there are no problems. I've listed 11 of the main areas where there was differences, but to be honest, none of them were unexpected. I've got the income. What I would like to do, therefore, is my recommendation too, which is say you're happy with the accounts and the balance sheet. The next bit I take you on to really is the annual return we have to make to the auditors. There's the annual governance statement, which really you are confirming that we're taking all the reasonable steps we needed to exercise and to control. I have drawn your attention to the fact that due to a little error I made last year, we didn't give people long enough to actually examine the accounts. But since it's 6 years since anybody actually raised a question, I didn't see this as a great problem. The second thing is the accounting statement, which is section 2 of it. As I constantly point out, this is a much summarized statement of your accounts. It doesn't have anything like the detail of your full income expenditure, but it is required. I have done it, and I have prepared all the notes that will go with it to the auditors. So I ask you to go with recommendation 4. And the final thing this year, of course, rising out of the COVID, we actually need to give people a chance to come and examine our documents if they choose to do so. So the current guidance says as soon as the lockdown is over, we will make the accounts available. If anybody wants to ask a question. In the meantime, everything we've got has been published on the website. And as ever, if anybody wants to ask a question, we're more than happy to answer it. So that's my report. And I invite any questions.
Thank you, John, for that excellent report. Questions, Wayne, please.
Thank you, Chair. So for anybody watching this at home, we're sitting here with our papers, and I know that these are available, but just in very simplistic terms, if I can ask John, is the council financially solvent? Number 2, well, go on then, you try that one, and I'll run through them. So are you confident that we're solvent?
Right. The simple answer to that is absolutely yes. As ever, you have exercised excellent stewardship. And even though, as I pointed out, we overspent last year, we actually planned to overspend because there were some key schemes you had in the pipeline and you agreed to finish it. One of the problems we have is we're ever hopeful of getting funding in, but sometimes that funding is problematic. So if we go somewhere like the Century Garden or any of the big schemes, sometimes we have to put in our own money. Well, as I said, you've planned for that, that's fine.
Okay. And if I can, just with the second question, again, it's for the benefit of public watching this, probably never seen it before. You've answered the question, we are absolutely solvent. Second question is, are you confident that we have the checks and the balances in place to ensure that what we spend is spent fairly adequately and within any particular legislative framework? So in a sense, what I'm saying to you is, do you actually think that we're delivering this properly and efficiently in terms of revenue?
It's my absolute opinion that we have one of the best financially run councils in the area, if not in the country. You go as a council above and beyond any minimum. So we have the external auditors, we also have an internal auditor, and you actually remember you pay me to do extra checks and extra balances. We're fortunate, we have a clerk, we have an administrator, we have a manager who all do what's required to do it. So public money is absolutely well looked after.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm happy with those answers.
Lovely, thank you, John. Thank you, Wayne. Mark.
Thank you, Chair. As John can verify, when the initial papers of these came out, I went back to him with some questions and queries, which he confirmed just for my own satisfaction. As Chair of the Council's Development and Strategic Management Committee, there are various issues come up throughout the year with regards to additional items that may require spend. That's discussed at these committees and the committee agrees before any spend goes ahead. So, you know, approval is given before this spend is signed off. If, you know, for the public out there, that they look at these and think, oh, well, that's gone above what the budget was. This has been approved throughout the year, but they'll also see that there's underspend in other areas. So we also take that into account when we're looking at these things, and these could be what we class as essential items. It could be playground equipment that has either worn out or been damaged, and therefore we're aware that it goes beyond the original budget that we've set. But we're not going to leave this equipment in disrepair. We know it's an essential item for our children in the town, so we're going to make that spend. But we're also aware, keeping the items of spend in other areas, that we do have an underspend elsewhere, so we do have money that covers it. And as John has just said, we are financially viable. We do keep a close rein on our spend, and overall within the limits that we've got.
Thank you. Paul?
Thank you, John. It was a very excellent report, and in fact, encouraging and inspiring confidence. Now, looking into the future ahead, is there any specific advice you would like to give us as a council?
I think, no, I think you've been very good as the council following advice. You've not done anything really silly. The thing I would like to see is if we're in a position to actually develop a longer term plan. I know there are lots of plans in the pipeline, but with my accounting background, I don't like just to look at this year. I like us to be planning ahead next year and the year after. And I think actually you're doing that. I mean, a good example is the review that's been done of the playgrounds, which will come to you, and hopefully, we'll deliver that, and you will deliver the funds for that in a sensible and timely manner. But no, I think, as I said earlier in response to Wayne's question, I think it's a well-run ship, and it makes my life easy.
And ours too, John.
Yeah, thank you, John. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Bob. Thank you for everybody.
Thank you, Paul. Bob, did you want to speak?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Lorraine, that the accountancy side, the technical accountancy side, is very well run, and we have triple locks everywhere, so very little can go wrong. Adam and I couldn't run off to the West Indies if we wanted to. But what is crucially important, and John alluded to this, is that the budget is simply a reflection of the policies that you set. And that when we're actually doing the budget preparation, it's important that how we spend our money reflects the policies of the administration of the day. So the sooner you start thinking about how you're going to spend next year's budget, the better.
Yes.
That's all I'm saying.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that, Bob. Anything else anyone wants to add, or are we done? Can I just, looking at the report here, underneath the balance sheet, there is a recommendation that the council accept the income and expenditure account and balance sheet for the 2019-20 financial year. Are we accepting this?
Great, Chair.
Yes, okay. Okay, right, thank you. And then moving on to the next page, that the council approve the accounting statement for 2019-20. Are we approving this?
Approved, Chair.
Thank you, Barry. Thank you, Mark, and others. Thank you, Paul. And finally, that the council note these arrangements under recommendation 5, the final part of John's report.
Noted, Chair.
Thank you, Barry. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Dunbar. Okay, gosh, where are we? We've saved the best till last. The service manager's report. To receive the service manager's report on current operational issues and projects, report attached. And I also say this report is normally taken by the DSM committee, but is referred to full council as a result of current restrictions on meetings. Daryl, please.
Yes, hello, good evening, you all right? As you can probably appreciate, we've been very busy, the officers and all of the operational staff, especially in the current climate. And just before I move on to my report, I just want to say that we anticipated that service delivery was going to be massively affected due to the COVID-19, but thankfully it hasn't, as you can probably all see when you're out and about. But yeah, so the purpose of this report is outlines service delivery in relation to ongoing environmental maintenance and projects that fall under the control of this council. So I'll move on straight on to section 2, grounds maintenance and street cleansing operations. The winter works programme was signed off on the 27th of March 2020, and every area that was outlined in the programme was completed. And myself and the town clerk were quite satisfied that the agreement for the winter works programme was fulfilled. The grass cutting's now started, and we're currently, well, the report outlines we're on cutting cycle 6, but we're now on cutting cycle 7, and that seems to be going really well. I know we've got the weather on our side, but due to the weather as well, the growth has slowed down, and we're going to be looking at the potential realignment of grass cutting cycles, but I'll keep you all in the loop after I've spoke to the town clerk and other colleagues in relation to that. Weed treatment operations commenced on the 4th of May, and they're still currently ongoing, and the anticipated completion date is the 29th of May. I will stress to members, if you are getting complaints from members of the public, just let me know, and we'll get those areas looked at. Horticultural teams are currently preparing our horticultural displays, all of our ground beds, towers and railing planters, and everything's looking good and everything's on target. I spoke to the guys that run the nurseries today, and everything's looking good, and everything's supposed to come out or is scheduled to come out next week. So you should see the teams start planting from next week. Street cleansing, I know Jane covered a lot of the statistics in the AV, what we're seeing at the beginning of the meeting, but I'll just run them through again. We collected 17,632 kilograms of general litter, and 28 incidents of fly tipping have been recorded within the past 8 weeks. Section 3, bush shelters. The actual bush shelter repairs were delayed due to COVID-19. However, the contractors have been on site today, so they should be completed by the end of play tomorrow. And playgrounds, as you're all aware, they are still closed to the public. However, this has given us a good opportunity to get in and do some essential maintenance, which would normally find difficult due to high usage. For example, we've been doing some maintenance on the bearings, on the swings and stuff like that. So we have got a positive from the playgrounds being closed. And ROSPA, our external playground audit contractor, has been in to do the annual inspection that is required by law, and we should have the paperwork in relation to that very soon. However, the inspector did comment on the phone to myself that there's no major issues, so that report will be looking good when it comes through. Environmental enforcement. Our environmental enforcement officer has been busy, and we have seen an increase in fly tipping. As you can see in the report, that he has been currently investigating 65 incidents of fly tipping in the past 8 weeks, and 14 warning notices have been issued to offenders. There is going to be some court action as well, but that's still currently progressing through NCC Legal. As soon as that comes through the official channels, I'll report back to the council and colleagues. And projects, the patent project for the subway scheme has been completed, and we've received a lot of overwhelming compliments about those works that was undertaken. I think a lot of people kind of like the neutral colour, and they weren't quite keen on the random colours throughout the town. That tied in with the Cycle and Walk initiative. And the sensory garden now is 95% completed. We're just waiting for some parts to arrive, for example, additional seating and stuff like that. But the lead time has been extended on that because of COVID-19 again, due to suppliers not working and stuff like that. And we've received majority of the proposed Councillor Connect schemes, and I'm just working through that and getting costings as quick as we can, and getting stuff back to committees to get them approved, and then we can progress the work. However, we still are waiting for the East Ward at the minute. We've had no submissions from the East Ward, so if members could get back to me as soon as possible. We'll probably be looking to set maybe as a target date for a cut-off date, so that we've got a comprehensive plan which we can move forward. And parking services, within the 8 weeks, they've only issued 28 fixed penalty notices, and that's the same because of the volume of offences has decreased due to the footfall on the public highway has obviously just decreased due to COVID-19. And I've got one last item, if I can add, please, Chair. It's in relation to adding additional litter bin provision. Is that okay?
Yes, you may. Yes.
Yep. So yeah, as Councillor Flux and Councillor Hurd will be able to comment on, we met on the 21st of May to have a look at a potential litter problem. After the site meeting, it became quite clear that there was an obvious litter problem, and I think this is because of the new development at St Nicholas's Manor and the green belt to the rear of Westwood Grange. I think you've got the residents from the Westwood Grange and the residents from St Nicholas's Manor now using that big green open space. And as a result, there is a requirement to add 2 additional litter bins. To install the 2 litter bins, it would take the litter bins from existing stock, so it would cost approximately £400 for install. I've spoke to our street cleansing colleagues, and they've got capacity to empty them. It would just be for approval, really, to go ahead and get those installed for Councillor Flux and Councillor Hurd.
Thank you, Darryl. So can we have approval for the, oh, Mark, yes. Oh, lots of hands. Mark?
Yeah. Chair, I see no problem from the DSM perspective. Chair DSM, no problem with that going ahead. But just to add on the back of that from a DSM perspective, when we look at the services provided across the town, it's been a difficult and challenging time, and the officers and team have worked hard to maintain the levels with consideration to the fact that a number of changes have had to take place to help maintain staffing levels across the many areas throughout the last weeks. But we received many positive comments on the upkeep of the town through this situation, and thanks go to residents who've taken the time to pass these on, as it makes a huge difference to the staff who work hard and take pride in their work. It is disappointing that people have physically removed the signs and ties that have repeatedly been put in place to prevent access to the children's play parks. And I'm also aware that we've recently suffered a small spate of graffiti with a recognisable tag, but all of which have been the police are fully aware of. The completion of the underpass painting is a significant improvement and helps to brighten up these across the town, as Darryl's mentioned. And it's good to hear that the floral displays are being prepared, and we'll soon start to see things in bloom in the town again for summer. As mentioned, the first of the weed control measures are commenced across the area, and this takes some time to take effect. But if any councillor has concerns about this, as Darryl said, please speak to them and we can check on coverage and address any of these issues. But as always, if there are any issues over grass cutting, weeds, litter, etc., we ask that residents please report these to the town council as soon as possible so that we can look to manage these properly across our town. And the reason we ask it goes through the town council is that we have a partnership agreement. Darryl, in the work that he does, helps to monitor the work, monitor the standards, even to the point that we can access the grass cutters have GPS units, so we can do all of this monitoring, and it helps towards the service agreement that we have in the partnership, and know that what we're paying for as a town council in partnership is actually being done. So that's why we ask that all of this work, all these issues are reported to the town council. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Mark, and thank you for explaining it so well, Barry.
Thank you, Chair. Just in specific points to the litter bins at Nelson Hill, as Darryl said, and I'll speak for Councillor Hurd if she can't indicate she wants to speak because she's not on camera. We had that walk around last week. It's clear that the area is used much more heavily for recreation now, given the number of houses immediately around the area has increased. So I ask my fellow councillors to support the measure for more litter bins there, which would be a very welcome addition to a now highly used recreation area. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. Christine?
Thank you, Chair. Darryl, can I ask if the litter bin that was going to be near the Eastfield playing fields, the bottom of Kendall Drive, to deal with the dog mess problem, is that being processed as well?
Yes, it has. Yes,
oh,
it's more of a it's reallocation, not additional. So.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm self-isolating at the moment. So has it been put in situ yet?
Yep, everything. I'm going to set the guys away on Monday next week to concentrate on bins for a couple of hours, because we've got a couple of just to realign and fix and install. So yeah.
Ah, super. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can we approve then the expense of installing the 2 litter bins in Barry's area to the amount of £400? Can we approve them?
Chair, can I just say, I thought I saw Councillor Murray indicated to speak earlier.
Hang on, Dave. Dave, just a second. Can you unmute Dave, please? Sorry, Dave.
No, I didn't actually indicate it. I just...
You thought you were just waving at me. That's all right then.
No, Wayne, he was waving at me.
Okay, waving at everybody. Yeah.
Sorry, can we stop all this hilarity? Can we approve this expense of £400 for Barry, please?
Yeah,
Yes,
agreed.
Mark, thank you. Wayne, thank you. And Mr. and Mrs. Dunbar, thank you, Christine and Norman. Thank you for your report, Darren. And it's noted. Are there any other questions or issues? And what I would like to do is, I would just like, if possible, Adam, can you unmute Pat, just so we can parlay with her, just to see if she's got any questions at all about the meeting? I haven't forgotten about her.
No, I'm fine. You're all right.
All right then, Pat. Well, thanks for joining us.
I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Right, any other members' questions? Mark?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I have 2 questions, if I could, please. Firstly, we've had a number of residents who've really gone out of their way to help and support people in Cramlington and the town as a whole. We've previously had an award where individuals can nominate people, or councillors can nominate people for this. So do we have this in operation now, or do we have something that's...
Well, Adam and I've spoken briefly to Adam and asked him if we could do the same again this year in November as we did last year, because it was very successful. And I think we're thinking about it, aren't we, Adam?
Sorry, Chair. I believe that there's going to be a new scheme run this year, or there's discussions of one that will be run this year, being dealt with by Jane.
Right, lovely.
If Jane wants to come in.
It's,
Please, Jane.
we're in discussion. We want to have the Love Cramlington Awards, because on the social media, the hashtag Love Cramlington's been very successful, and it's given a positive look to the situation that we've been developing. I know Maggie has used it a lot as well on her social media. So the idea is that we have a Love Cramlington Awards, and we ask for nominations for local people and groups that have gone above and beyond and just deserve some recognition.
Thank you.
Okay, and will we, sorry.
I'm hoping to launch that next week, if that's okay with everybody.
Okay, and then the awards ceremony will we have an awards ceremony similar to what we did last November?
That's Adam's department.
Right, okay.
I think that's fantastic, and I look forward to that information coming out and being cascaded and communicated for the community. The second question, if that's okay?
Yes, please.
As part of DSM committee, and John mentioned earlier about a playgrounds review, and prior to the current restrictions being in place, we identified potential improvement to play areas around the town. So if I could ask where we now stand with this, please, Adam?
Adam?
Thank you. The playground review has been delayed due to the COVID-19. However, consultation is now in a position where it can commence. We'll focus initially on the smaller play areas such as Abingdon Way and Maidstone. We've got a consultation form which will be delivered to the households in that area, and I'll get those out within the next couple of weeks, and I'll set a deadline for the end of June. The finding of the consultation will be reported back to members for consideration.
That's great.
Thank you.
Could I just ask for a bit of clarity how we're going to do the consultation with any potential restrictions that we've got on at the moment?
The consultation will be carried out by myself. I'll be going around the households with a note. Obviously, restrictions are being slightly more lenient, which allows me to do so in the coming weeks.
Okay, thanks very much for that. Thanks.
They'll be asked to either return the form via the post to the town council offices or via email.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Mark and Adam. Paul?
Yes, thank you, Chair. This is more a clarification than a question. At the start of the meeting, you said 5 out of 7 are questions relate to County Council, and
Right,
you
yes.
will ask them for replies. I would like to clarify whether you would share those replies with the people who sent the questions.
They will come back to either Adam or Bob, and I'm sure that they will share those with us. Is that correct, gentlemen? Bob, Adam?
Well, I mean, we will forward those questions to NCC, and when they respond, they'll copy us into any response.
Okay, so the complainants will automatically get the responses.
Yes,
That's
they
what
will.
Yes, yes.
If we have the details, contact details, yes.
Yeah, okay.
And finally, agenda item number 9, members' questions, please. Members are invited to address questions to the chairman or clerk and to report matters for consideration by the committee. Wayne, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So what it is, it relates actually to the area around Northumberlandia. I've driven past there quite a few times, and on a couple of occasions I've driven past, there was some very dangerous parking,
yes,
almost in the verges, because the car park is closed. I want to get the ins and outs of why the car park is closed or whatever, but I do think there is something about us as a town council perhaps having a conversation with the police or other bodies, because the way that some of those cars were parked, double parked in some cases, was a risk to cyclists and particularly people who were using that as a walking area.
Yes, there were cones out. Was it yesterday or the day before? They actually had cones where people had previously parked on the grass verges. But then all that did was just move the problem further up nearer to the Snowy Owl. Anyone else? Any other members?
Just to say on that, Chair, the cones are out tonight, and there was no parking when I came past.
Oh, good.
Pat has just, sorry, Daryl, just a second. Pat has put a message up there, and I've missed it. Pat. We've received lots of complaints about the parking there, so.
Yep.
Hi, Lorraine. It was just we've received complaints about the parking causing issues,
yes,
and also people complaining they can't access the electric car charge points because the car park's closed.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that, Pat. Daryl, I think you were next, and then Jane.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It was just to say that this issue has been highlighted through our reporting mechanisms for the public. And I have spoke to the police, and they are aware, and they are going to monitor that area. I believe when the police were going to try and contact, is it the Wildlife Trust who manage that site, to find out why the car park still remains closed. But yes, so the local team are aware.
Right,
thank you. Jane.
Complaints on social media. I investigated that it's owned and run by the Land Trust. And it's the Land Trust have shut the visitor centre and the car park, although they say people are welcome to walk in there. But it's the Land Trust. I don't know whether the council can approach them or not.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that, Jane, for that information. Right, any other members' questions before we close? As Barry has just said, the clap is on at 8 o'clock. We have half an hour. Right, part 2, please. Can we commence part 2? Pursuant to section 1(2) of the Public Bodies Admission to Meetings Act 1960, members of the public and press are excluded due to the confidential nature of the business to be transacted. Thank you, Adam.